This tutorial is on employee information. How do you add? How do you edit? So here we are on the home page. We can use this employee list. So the first thing to know is if you're adding an employee, the only things that are required to add an employee is the first name and the middle name. So if you don't have any other information, you need those two at least. So let's say, for example, what do we, Abdul Mohammed, let's say. So we can add someone like that. So that's the minimum. Now, when you close the employee list, there's certain things that happen. I'll tell you just now. Let me close. Let me reopen this. Abdul is down here. These employee IDs are automatically allocated by the system. Don't worry if you see a number skipped, that doesn't matter. Once an ID is allocated to a person, the whole system knows this person based on the ID. You can't change it, even if you try. You can't change it, right? So if you want some other number to know this person by, I'll show you where you can put that in. If you double click on this, it'll open the individual employee's record. So we are on Abdul Mohammed, who we just entered. So when we closed the employee list, what happened is the default numbers that are required were added. These default rates that should be applied were added. The overall active months of the individual were added. And also this tax status, resident and primary. And in addition, you got department, role, and group all saying no, as in no department, no role, no group. Now, a person has to have a department, a role, or a group, which is why you can see that it has none to start with. To add departments, you can click on your department list here and say, for example, marketing, and let's say accounts. Let's close that. Now you can change this. Now usually if you're changing somebody's department, you would say the current department ended at this and you would add a new line. But in this case, because we're just removing this no department, we can say this person works in accounts. And then the role list, we can come here and say chief accountant. Let's say marketing manager, like that. Close, and in this case, we change this to chief accountant. So there is that. So that's departments and roles. If this person is a non-resident, you would come and change here. Let's leave that there. If it's a secondary employee, you would come and change here. Okay, these things have implications. When you process payslips, if a person is a non-resident or a secondary, there are certain things that are taken into account. When you get somebody's numbers, you can come in here and put in their ID. Let's say I think I had already used 123, say 765, their NSSF number, their PIN, whatever. And then this was that staff number that I was saying. If you want to put in a number that is relevant to your organization, you can come and say that's their staff number, for example. So when I close this, now you can see, you can't see any of those changes here. Those changes you would be able to see if you either opened the individual employee record like that, or if you came here, let's say, for example, numbers, right? So we just added Abdul. You can come here and select Abdul. What did I do with him? Why is Abdul not there? Oh, he's down here. Abdul Mohammed. I need to change the order of that so that it's alphabetical. So you can see this is the numbers that we put in for Abdul. And you can see what rates are applicable to each individual. You can see bank information. So if you had bank information for everybody, you would see them here. If you want to see who you've given departments, you can come here and allocate all departments. So every button you click here will give you a list of this specific thing where you can see everybody. This is for secondary employees. This is for people with disabilities. Tax status will have everyone, so you can see everybody is here. If you wanted to change, you can change here. So this gives you lists, and this gives you for an individual. Now choose whether you're changing in this view or the other view. Don't change on both. So that's how to edit employee information. Now if you want, so let me close here again. Remember, we're in the employee list. Email addresses for sending payslips you would put here. Abdul, let's say m at test.test, for example, right? And you can put his phone number, whatever, right? And say whether he's married or not. These you have an option whether or not to. I think this you just type Kenya. There we go. Then these have to do with foreign currency. I won't cover that here. So you input this particular information on this screen, but everything else, when you go here, you either go and put for the individual using those tabs, or you come up here and you can work on, you can see everyone, only tax statuses. You can see everyone, only numbers. And all this in the blue section above here, these are filters. So if I want to see pins, I come here. If I want to see IDs, I come here. If I click all, it brings us back to everybody. If I want to see one person, this Tom Jones person. If I want to see Daniel Pasha. So these lists operate like that. What else matters here? Now this is just a quick search. If you have very many employees, this is a way to find people quickly. So as you type, say Robert, it just filters by everyone who has the word Robert in their name, or Lucy, for example. And to open, you double click, it takes you back here. So this is pretty much the same as double clicking on this, but it's useful if you have multiple people. You can add a new person directly from here. This will open the blank. Sorry, I think if you do this, yeah, it will open a blank employee like that, say test, and you can add them. Although I prefer if you add people in the employee list, just so that you know exactly where you are. Now, that employee information can be shown on the payslips depending on what setup or options you have selected. So if you come to payslip options and double click, this gives you some options on what can be visible on the payslip. So if you don't want departments and roles to be visible, you untick. If you want the person's bank account to be visible, you do that. Then these are for the organization. If you want to show the organization's logo, you do that. The pin. Okay, so you have these options on what will be visible on the payslip. What I mean is, if I go here, let me just process quickly. So I'll check what options I picked. Okay, I come to reports, open a payslip. So it's showing my sample logo. I said I want to see the address. I've removed the department and role. If I want to add back department and role, I can come here and say department and role, close. Now remember, you have to close a report to activate the change. So in this case, we had not changed him. Let's see if Abdul is next. Abdul is at the end. Oh, I didn't add Abdul to the system, so he doesn't have a salary. Otherwise, we would see the department and role that we did for the other Abdul. So that's how you control what shows up here. And if you want to show these numbers here, It's in a tricky place you have to remember. You come to the employee list, click on numbers, come here number types, and you can decide what you want to show on the payslip here. Right, so that is pretty much how to enter employee information. Then remember, after you add someone, their salary is not automatically added here. You have to come here and give them a salary. So let's put Abdul Mohammed, basic pay. Let's say he's on 75k. You have to come and put his salary here before it is added. So now if I come here and process, now Abdul Mohammed will be added. And then we can look at his payslip and you will see, here he is. We go and look at his payslip. You see him is in accounts department and he's the chief accountant. Okay, so that shows you most of how to handle employee information.